Post-credit sequences have come to be one of the most intriguing factors in current cinema, teasing little bits of comedy, twists, and setting up potential sequels, but not all of them are successful in doing so, as the entries on this list went the same way as me after 9 pints of Buckfast RB tonic wine, absolutely goddamn nowhere. With this in mind, I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 sequels teased in post-credit scenes that never actually happened. Number 10. The Pain Never Ends, Max Payne. Coming in 2008, the same year that Mark Wahlberg starred in The Happening, Max Payne was released and Marky Mark's second flop of the year was established. After loosely following the plot of Remedy Entertainment's 2001 hit video game, the ending is tweaked from the source material as Max shoots his way through an army of guards to confront the big bad. So instead of Max destroying a helicopter and killing Nicole Horn, he shoots his dad's former partner BB, with Max being arrested by the SWAT team shortly after. The post-credits scene shows Max arriving at a bar sometime in the future with minimal dialogue as he sits down for a drink with Russian assassin Mona Sachs. She hands him a newspaper with a photograph of Horn at the front, hinting that there is some unfinished business to be had. As we now know, this is left open-ended, so maybe Ted is actually the spiritual successor, showing Max and Mona life after violence. Number 9. He's Alive! Crank High Voltage. Crank High Voltage is the original Crank ramped up to 1000 and might be one of the most underrated video game films that isn't actually based on a video game at all. Chev Chelios is back to his old tricks and is still out to kill those who wronged him, but at the end, he finds himself burned to a crisp. Throughout the credits, the failed attempts at saving him are spliced in as all seems to be lost when finally Statham's eyes open on the final shot. Now, to end on this and never have a follow-up is an absolute crime, because even if he is on 1% health, Crank 3D would surely pull in box office numbers. Fingers crossed for this one. Well, that's if he has any fingers left at this point. Number 8. This is also still alive. Stealth. Nobody asked for a film where an evil AI-controlled drone turns psychopath and starts killing people before seeing the light towards the end as it redeems itself by committing suicide to save the good guys. That is what you call a rather pointless film. However, Rob Cohen directed it anyway, and it was kind enough to leave us with this shocking realization that a sequel was thought about at some point. The few people left in their seats as the credits rolled were greeted with one last shot of this demonic drone. It's early morning as the camera pans over what is left of the rubble to find the brain of EDI, which isn't dead. A red light turns on as the camera cuts to black, and thankfully, that is the last that any of us will ever have to see this, as it only made back half its budget as the box office and bombed. Number 7. Super KOOPA Cousins, Super Mario Brothers. For the longest time, the Super Mario Bros. Adaptation to film has been one of the worst video game translations, until Uwe Boll rocked up on the scene and just pissed over everything. Stop it, you're getting my feet wet, you filthy monkey. The ending stinger to this portly plumber's first outing was equally as weird. It didn't feature Bob Hoskins, John Legs as I call him, or Dennis Hopper in their respective characters, but what it did include is Japanese businessman number 1 and Japanese businessman number 2 approaching Iggy and Spike for a video game deal. The game in question they want to make ends up being titled Super KOOPA Cousins, and it's not clear if this was meant to be intended to set up a sequel or even a video game, but the studio must have thought that this movie wouldn't fail, but oh boy, did it fail. I mean, look at that Goomba's head and tell me that you're not looking into the face of pure evil. Number 6. Howard the Duck, Guardians of the Galaxy. Coming at a time when the Marvel Cinematic Universe had been well established, Guardians of the Galaxy burst it wide open with a brand new cast of colourful characters not yet seen on screen before, and with humour being the backbone of the film. The extraterrestrial side of Marvel's huge back catalogue to this point had only been touched on in the Thor films, but Star-Lord and the rest of the Guardians take this factor to a new level. So when it came to the long-awaited post-credits scene that is so synonymous with every MCU movie, fans were excited to see what they'd get this time around. What they got was Howard the Bloody Duck, sipping what can only be described as a space martini as he questions why the Collector is allowing Cosmo to lick his face. It was weird, but a hilarious pop for the crowd, and while he did make the briefest appearance in Guardians 2, that time around it was even more inconsequential. It's just a shame because Lord knows with the minds behind the MCU at the moment, a Howard the Duck film, and I can't believe I'm saying this, might actually do really well, especially if they got Seth Green to do his voice. Number 5. Multiple Sightings, Cloverfield. Matt Reeves' fantastic monster movie had the feel of a War of the Worlds for a new generation, as the characters and audiences hadn't much of a clue to what was really going on. So what better way to end the film than with a couple of seconds of text and audio that was indistinguishable at the time. The internet pulled their hair out over this to discover what the crackly audio was saying. In fact, some people said that it was "help us," but when played backwards it seemed to be a soldier saying it was still alive. This is straight up sequel bait, with the monster still being alive, and the question of where it would possibly terrorize next was on everyone's mind. Another city in America, or perhaps some other undeserving country. Also, the text implies that there were multiple sightings of the case designated Cloverfield to be found. So if not a film set in the future, how about another group scrambling to survive the monster? Or maybe, as the direction that they did choose, how about 2 other films with Cloverfield in the title that, for the most part, have nothing in common with the 2008 original? Brilliant. Number 4, Skynet finds a way. Terminator, Genisys. One day there will be a study done on how a franchise could start life so great, go on to have a near-perfect sequel, and then end up in Hollywood's toilet. Now, time travel can be a hard thing to get to grasp with, but if done right, a la Terminator and Terminator 2, it can be engaging and the bedrock for an incredibly fun movie. But it can also go horribly wrong, as the 3 movies that followed proved. Genisys tried to fix the events of Terminator's timeline, Days of Future Past style, by scrapping it all and starting again. So this means nothing matters anymore, and canon is just out the bloody window. Remember, Genisys is Skynet, and Skynet is still alive thanks to a post-credit stinger that most people might have actually missed. But that doesn't really matter now, as the next film in the franchise will take place after Judgment Day and retcon anything that happened anyway. Brilliant! Number 3, Sinestro turns yellow, Green Lantern. 2011's box office flop starring Ryan Reynolds, Green Lantern is a lesson to those out there that not every superhero movie is destined to be a massive franchise. The Dark Knight trilogy was in full swing after the phenomenal success of the second installment, and DC thought it wise to introduce another one of their biggest players, but this turned out to be a CGI mess. So much so that once Reynolds played the fourth wall-breaking Deadpool, he not only ribs his time as the Green Lantern once, but twice, even executing himself before he reads the movie's script. That was a banter-rific section. The scene in question, however, shows Sinestro being corrupted by the yellow power and, putting on the fear ring, which is also what I call your mum's batty hole, there's my one per list, and break free from the Green Lanterns. DC fans would then surely think that this was leading him to start his own evil army, the Sinestro Corps, but what it ended up being was a big old fat nothing. Number 2, M. Bison revived, Street Fighter. Being a Street Fighter movie, it had to end with leading man Jean-Claude Van Damme facing off against M. Bison. It's as cheesy as to be expected for a 90s movie and ends up with Bison being defeated, then blown up, and then crushed just for good measure. But Bison wasn't going to go out that easy. He never bloody does in the video game, so why should he here? Once the Capcom logo fades away and the dust has settled after the final showdown, the camera pans across the rubble to reveal that actually Bison isn't dead. He chooses world domination from the options menu on his laughably outdated technology, and then there's a dramatic cut to black. It is pant-wettingly funny to the nth degree, but unfortunately, Raul Julia passed away before the sequel could be filmed, which is a bloody shame. He was a fantastic actor. And number 1, groovy. Evil Dead 2013. Soft reboots seem to be all the rage in the current climate when the ideas pool just runs dry, and Evil Dead 2013 is a perfect example of that. Carrying on the franchise some 21 years later, it swapped out series mainstay Ash Williams for Maya Allen. But that isn't to say that Ash was done by a long shot. Ash, played by the returning Bruce Campbell, shows up at the very end, barely lit so that only fans of the previous films would have had the chance to recognize him, and he delivers the line, groovy. That was all with the intent of a Mia and Ash crossover going to be the next Evil Dead film. Campbell reprised his role as Ash once again for the Ash vs. Evil Dead TV series, but the sequel to Evil Dead 2013 was all but confirmed to be fading away. Brilliant. And there we go, those were 10 sequels that were hinted at in post-credit sequences that didn't go anywhere. I hope you enjoyed that. I had a really good time. It was fun. It's fun. Give a shout out to Ben Roy, who's the original writer of this. He does some work over on the Game Channel. Does a lot of quizzes as well. He did a good one on Resident Evil. Stumped me for days. Enjoyed that a lot. Just going to kill some time until the 10-minute ad revenue hits. I mean, you can go check out shop.whatculture.com, even though, bizarrely, we've closed it for Christmas. Not entirely sure why the shop is closed. Can't take orders on a backlog, but there we go. Why not check out whatculture.com for more news and articles like this every goddamn day? That's a phrase that I used to say before they told me to drop that. Go follow me at RetroJ with a 0 over on Twitter. And, I guess I'll see you in 2019. Bye.